Okay, hey Peter. So why don't you introduce yourself briefly and let's get started. Thank you so much for your willingness to be a guest speaker.
Absolutely, Dr. Pion. So I'm going to go ahead and actually share my screen too. So please let me know as soon as you can see my screen. So let me just
Yeah, you
share
can
over here
share. I
really
made you as a
quick.
co-host. You can share now.
Perfect. So let me actually share my slide deck that I've put together over here. So let me know if you can see it on your end over here.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. Awesome. Perfect. So can you see the full presentation mode over here or?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the intro, Dr. Pion. So as you can see over here in the image that I put on the presentation, this was actually back in 2016 when I got the opportunity to visit the campus in person, but I'm glad that we can do the talk today, but we're doing it in a virtual setting. So hopefully things are gonna start going back to normal again real soon. So we get to do this again live and in person on campus. And I also made a note over here to call this out too, because the football team is also killing it this year. So we're up 4-0, and I'm pretty sure when I did my research, it's the first time that we've had that kind of a record in the past 65 years. So pretty impressive over there. And so as Dr. Pion mentioned, I'll be talking a little bit about my career path, my journey today, both from the education standpoint, from a professional career standpoint, how I went into construction and construction technology, and basically some of those lessons that I've learned along the way. All right. So just really quick, Peter Razavi, from a professional career standpoint, worked for Skanska, which is one of the world's leading project development and construction groups for about 5 years. And from there, I had the opportunity to essentially go ahead and make a drastic change in my career to go to the technology side and worked for a construction tech startup company called PlanGrid, which ultimately went ahead to get acquired by Autodesk. And now I've been at Autodesk myself for the past couple of years, leading our global technical solutions team. And most important part, as you can see over here in the slides, got my bachelor's degree in civil and environmental engineering at San Jose State. So again, go Spartans, and from there went on to pursue my graduate degree at UC Berkeley. All right, so I do want to keep this informal too, so please, everybody feel free, just chime in if there's any questions that you want to ask at any point during the presentation, but just wanted to give it a quick structure for us by first covering some of my experiences during school years, what made me actually choose a career in construction, and then talk a little bit about my career path, and as I mentioned, some of those lessons learned along the way. And at the end, we're just gonna change gears to talk a few minutes about some of the basic challenges that we see in the construction industry. And as Dr. Pion said, I'll do a brief technical demonstration of one of our solutions that we have at Autodesk, which is now PlanGrid, to show you how basically collaboration and field productivity can increase on our construction projects by using construction technology. All right, so let's dive in and talk a little bit about some of my experiences first at San Jose State when I started working towards my bachelor degree. And you are not mistaken. Some of those homework that I have on the screen are my homework from the CE 112 days. And the initial reason basically why I decided to major in civil engineering was that my dad was a civil engineer and so were 3 of my cousins. So I just really wanted to basically be able to keep the family tradition going and major myself in civil engineering. And I remember basically taking all sorts of classes, but really struggled to figure out what branch of civil engineering I really wanted to focus on as a career path. And believe it or not, I was also an extremely shy and total introvert person, just going about my business. So I would just go to the cafeteria at San Jose State, spend hours and hours there eating my Panda Express and getting all my homework done, and never really took that initiative for, unfortunately, the first couple of years to connect with all the other students who were in my class. And just to be completely open and vulnerable here, I mean, that lack of interaction really resulted in me having pretty low self-confidence and a sense of belonging, which really impacted my attitudes towards my studies. And I would just come to school, get my stuff done, and go home immediately right after. And that's why I put the biggest lessons learned for this particular slide. That confidence honestly makes all the difference, whether it's at school or your career or generally in life. And there are very easy steps where you can start really developing that self-confidence. So let's talk about, in my case, how I started building that self-confidence and sense of belonging, which is actually kind of a funny story, to be honest. Finally, I decided to take an elective in construction. And Dr. Pian, I'm pretty sure it was CE 242 or 140, one of those classes where I really enjoyed all the different concepts that we had in the class, from earned value analysis to CPM scheduling. And that same semester, one of my classmates, who was the president of the AGC student chapter, asked me if I wanted to actually join the organization and take on a leadership position to be the events coordinator for the club. And I kid you not, my thought process to myself was, hey, why not? At least I'll get to put this on my resume and it'll look good at the end of the day when I want to go get my full-time position. So I actually started really attending all these different events that we had, like volunteer events with Rebuilding Together, Habitat for Humanity, where we really started helping with some minor construction work on homeless shelters, which was a pretty rewarding and eye-opening experience for me. We had lunch and learns where we brought in different industry professionals to talk about their experiences and other technical topics inside of construction. And we also went ahead and coordinated a lot of different job site tours with small firms, mid-sized firms, and a lot of mega builders locally and nationally, like Skanskas of the world and Turner Construction, as you can see in the image right at the top, where we got to actually tour the 49er Stadium while it was being built by the joint venture of Turner and DEFCON, which was a super cool experience. And basically for me, one thing that I really never forget is how humble all of these companies were and how much time they actually dedicated to teach us students a thing or two about construction. And the funny thing is that they always bought us pizza, which only made me fall more in love with construction. So as a student, I always had my priorities straight when it came to free food. And another thing is, you always hear this from people, or you see it all over internet, how folks in construction are always telling other people as they're driving around, hey, I built this hospital, or I built this office building, or the trade folks, they talk about how they did the plumbing, drywall, or electrical work in a particular structure. And this is definitely completely true. I mean, the pride that these guys take in their work is really second to none. And that's something that I wanted to be able to say whenever I entered the industry and got to get a couple of projects under my belt as well. And one more thing that we did attend was, as a student chapter, was attending industry conferences where they had a ton of different classes and student tracks where we learned about, let's say, new legislation in construction, new technologies. And there was also project engineer boot camps where we learned the responsibilities of, let's say, a new grad project engineer in the industry and what they were responsible for day one entering the workforce. But the most important part about going to all of these industry events was networking. So if you take anything from today's presentation before we get into the demo and the technology part of things, is how important it is for you guys to do the networking side of things. Because by going to these conferences as a student, we got to hang out with some of the biggest leaders in the construction industry, some of the C-suite executives, which can potentially help you land yourself an internship or a full-time position. And during one of these conferences, personal story, in Palm Springs, the executive vice president of one of the very well-known general contractors in the area, and I'm sure you guys all know about the company, invited all of us students basically into his suite to watch baseball and drink beer all day. And not to mention, there was an open bar, live music, dancing at all these conferences. So Now, if you think about it, you can really put two and two together to see why I went into construction. But all jokes aside, I just really enjoyed the people and the energy at the end of the day, and it was just a very fun industry to be a part of. And that just takes me to the lessons learned that we have over here on the slide. So by taking that initiative and jumping into leadership roles, you can really start pushing yourself and gain that confidence that you need to take you to that next level. And in my case, I was finally fortunate enough to be selected to serve as the student chapter president. And that really helped me in starting to create that professional brand and increase my confidence level moving forward. And as I said, networking is always the key to help you get ahead, whether you're a student or later on in your career as you start your full-time position as well. And I'll touch a little bit on that when I get into my professional career at Skanska and how things started. All right. And another quick area that I do want to highlight is the importance of getting that internship in construction. I had a couple of internships in transportation and traffic side of things, but wasn't really able to land that construction specific internship until the very last day of my undergraduate studies. Some of you might be familiar with the local builder in the Bay Area, Kobe Construction. And the gentleman in the photo and the green shirt, button-up shirt at the top, is the president of the company. And if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Pion, he taught my last CE 131 class for a semester back in 2013. So literally, another personal story, on the day of the final, I finished my exam. I walked over to his desk to drop off my paper. And out of nowhere, I just asked him if I could intern at his company over the summer. And he flat out told me that they were actually finalizing a contract with a client that they had. And if the contract was actually went through and signed, he would just give me a call. Literally a week went by. I received the call, went to the office the next day for a very informal meet and greet, and started my internship the next day. So at that point, Kobe was a pretty small firm. And that really gave me the opportunity to work on a few smaller projects ranging from tool install projects to clean room construction on some of the high-tech campuses around San Jose, which was pretty cool. And the other part of working for a smaller general contracting company as a project engineer, in this case, I was the only PE at the company. So I had to put on a lot of different hats where I did my project engineer duties of processing RFI, submittal, subcontracts, and then I would literally grab the truck and go up and pick up sheet metal, or I would go to Home Depot and grab nuts and bolts for the project. So it was just a really cool experience for me to be so involved in the day in, day out of the project as my first construction internship that I had. So, and that just brings me to the lessons learned for this particular slide, right? Be bold, ask and you shall receive. You just never know until you ask people. The worst thing that you can get is no. All right, so we're moving along. After graduating from San Jose State and completing that summer internship with Kobe, I went to UC Berkeley to get my master's degree in civil and environmental engineering with that focus in engineering and project management, where I learned a lot about different lean construction principles and methodologies out there. And I was really fortunate enough to get that opportunity to restart the AGC student chapter over there and serve as the president for the student chapter, where we hosted a lot of different activities, very similar to my time at San Jose State. And we also got the opportunity to do a lot of joint events between the two chapters, which was super cool for me, seeing both of my schools coming together. So it was definitely rewarding to see all of that. And the funny story is that I also followed up with my contacts at Skanska from the San Jose State days to now set up some job site tours for the Berkeley chapter. And since some of those initial interactions that I had with the Skanska team, I really saw the culture of the company, the magnitude of the projects that they worked on. And I was just in love with the company and basically knew that I wanted to work for them after my graduation from grad school. So I finally went ahead and sent in my resume, got invited to do a round robin format interview with 12 different people at Skanska's main office at that time in Oakland But again, going back to networking, 7 of those 12 people I had already met during the job site visit. So I walked out of my interview feeling pretty darn good that I had the job in the bag. And again, the lessons learned over here is, as you hear it all the time, it's definitely true. It's all about who you know and also who knows you. So that second part of it is extremely important as you start going into the industry and into the workforce. And the other piece of it is also super important to network and build your career early on, even when you're a student out there. So I'll touch on that a little bit in a little bit more detail as we go through the presentation. All right, so a few more slides. And finally, after graduating from UC Berkeley in 2014, started as a project engineer with Skanska's building group, where I got that opportunity to work on small and large projects in various construction market sectors. So as you can see, it was biotech, healthcare, higher education, aviation, and commercial. And that's the reason why I have the lessons learned on this slide, because I feel like it's just very important for everybody in this room as you start your career to start experiencing different types of projects, to be able to really find your passion, right? Sometimes you might fall in love with doing stadium work, healthcare projects, and dealing with, let's say, all the OSHPD crazy requirements that we see on the healthcare jobs. And we're seeing that it's becoming more and more common that we have project managers or project executives who spend pretty much all of their careers at a certain point working on certain type of projects. So basically, at the end of the day, you can become the stadium building girl or the healthcare guy out there building projects. And the other point, aside from experiencing projects in different market sectors, it's also super important to experience projects of basically varying sizes, from that small project to mid-size, and even large mega projects out there as well, to start figuring out your sweet spot of projects that you want to work on. For example, I talked to you about my internship with Kobe, and I also got the opportunity to, let's say, work on a $15 million build-out project with Skanska for a vision center in Sunnyvale, where I got the opportunity to wear multiple hats. I mean, that was a smaller project at that time for Skanska, and I got to do project engineer duties and project manager duties with negotiation, cost management, all that kind of good stuff all together. And then going to the other extreme of it, I also got to work on the $5 billion Apple campus in Cupertino. We have a little picture of it. It's super tiny over here on the slide, where I only focused on one specific scope. So I was there for over a year, and I only focused on terrazzo flooring. And that scope in and of itself was $40 million. It was a huge scope of work. But again, just to put that in perspective, there's definitely pros and cons when it comes to working on small projects versus working on large projects. And another important piece to also start learning about, I have it as the lessons learned, is to start learning about all the different project delivery methods. And I'm pretty sure, Dr. Pion, that was one of the key topics in CE 131 as well. So during my time at Skanska, got to work on traditional design bid build jobs, plan spec projects, design build jobs actually, and also true integrated project delivery projects with an IFOA contract, which gave me that good understanding between the differences of these delivery methods and how, let's say, different contract structures really dictated certain behaviors by different stakeholders, let's say architects or owners or contractors on the job site. And ultimately, what I do want to say is being in the field and working in construction is definitely super rewarding career. And you can see from the images that I have at the top, there's often a lot of donuts and caffeine involved, which makes it pretty fun. But aside from all the jokes, it is super rewarding to be a part of the construction industry and basically be a part of that process, and at the end of the project, be able to see the end result and the entire structure or the entire building coming together. All right, one more slide and we'll get to the construction technology side of things. And So in this slide, I do want to take a quick moment and reiterate the importance of networking, probably for the 18th time already, and developing those connections early on in the industry. Because as I said, it'll also not just help you land that internship or the full-time position, but it'll also help you get ahead when you get into your first full-time position with your, let's say, construction company that you work for. So when I had the opportunity to, as a student, go to all these conferences, hang out with all the people in leadership positions, I was able to get that confidence to not be intimidated by people in executive levels or in the C-suite. So, for example, I had the courage when I started working at Skanska to really go up to my chief operating officer or executive vice president and really engage in conversations with them and seek their mentorship. And through that, we were able to develop really long-lasting friendships, which even to this day, now that I'm not even with the company, we grab lunch, play tennis together, and I get to pick their brain on whether it's technical topics, how to navigate tough situations maybe at work, and how ultimately to become a better leader for my team during my current job. And I did put a little lessons learned over here at the end too for everybody. If you have the opportunity to take a calculated risk and jump on new opportunities, just do it. At Skanska, personal story again, we had won a couple of career building projects in the LA area back when I was in San Jose. And my executive VP at the top, Raul, he already had made the move from Bay Area to LA full-time to oversee the office over here. And one day he actually called me up and asked me if I wanted to manage one of those projects. And I took the chance, packed up my bags, and literally headed for LA. And I've been here ever since. So definitely, if you have the freedom to take calculated chances, say yes and make it happen if it's good for your career. All right, so let's now jump into the tech side of things for a few minutes. At Skanska, we use a lot of different technologies throughout different phases of our projects, all the way, let's say, from design authoring tools that you're familiar with, whether it was Revit, AutoCAD in design stages, into pre-construction products such as Assemble, Building Connected, and then moving into project management and field execution solutions such as BIM 360 or PlanGrid. So I started learning more and more about all of these different platforms out there and was fortunate enough actually to be able to implement a lot of them on my projects to help us build a little bit more on time and on budget when I was at Skanska. And that's exactly why I put the lessons learned over here for us. I mean, there are so many different opportunities in the construction industry. So really basic, you can go either the traditional route into working, let's say, for a pre-con department as an estimator, working as a superintendent, let's say in the field, or climb that corporate ladder, become a project manager, project executive, and make your way to the C-suite. Or you can also start learning all about different construction technologies out there. Spend 3 to 5 years working for a subcontractor, general contractor, or an owner. And from there, go work for a construction startup company like a PlanGrid or an established software company like an Autodesk, let's say. And as part of playing around with all the different technology out there, you'll also start, let's say, seeing all the different gaps and opportunities out there in the market. So there's definitely an opportunity for you to start, let's say, your own adventure. If you have that entrepreneurial mindset, to start your own construction technology company. I mean, at the end of the day, PlanGrid was sold to Autodesk for about $900 million. So sky is definitely the limit if you have a great idea at some point and you can execute on it. All right, so now the fun part. How did I make that drastic change from actually being in construction operations, working for an international company like Skanska with over 60,000 employees, to go work for a construction startup with only 400 people, right? So common theme here again from previous lessons learned that we talked about, networking. So through those involvements with student chapters back in 2013, I met one of the global vice presidents at PlanGrid when he was actually himself working for a different firm at the time. So we ended up staying in touch through the years. And during my time at Skanska, he would reach out every year or so with open opportunities that they had at PlanGrid. And PlanGrid at the time was actually a solution we were implementing on all of our projects at Skanska. And finally, in 2018, when the global VP for PlanGrid was visiting LA, we met for drinks and dinner, and he offered me a very unique role to join a new global team of technical solutions executives at PlanGrid to oversee some of our accounts in the Southwest US from a technical standpoint. And that's why I exactly have the lessons learned that I put over here in the slide. I mean, always make sure it's a very small industry. Do right by people, and you never know who you're going to end up working for or who's going to end up working for you. So always make sure that you're reflected in a great light, whether it's your personal or professional brand. And this whole job with PlanGrid, I mean, it was a very exciting opportunity and something that, to be honest, at first I was a little bit nervous about because I had to now learn a whole bunch of new skill sets. So with my initial role, I worked very closely with all the different departments in the company. Let's say a few specific examples. I worked with sales to help educate the team on construction-related workflows and technical concepts out there so they could go out there, execute, talk intelligently with our customers, and make sure we knew exactly what we were talking about out there in the field. Also worked super closely with our product development teams and engineers out there to be able to relay some of the customer feedback that we had for whether it was product enhancements and to ultimately refine our roadmap strategy for the company. Also ended up working very closely with our customer success and consulting teams to make sure we had essentially successful training and implementation of the products throughout the entire customer journey as well. And a few months in at PlanGrid, we got acquired by Autodesk, who had previously acquired a model-based estimating solution called Assemble. And shortly after the PlanGrid acquisition, actually, Autodesk went on to acquire Building Connected as a bidding and pre-construction platform. And recently at Autodesk, we acquired Pipe as a submittal automations tool. So that's how basically at Autodesk, we ended up forming this completely new department that we call Autodesk Construction Solutions, where we're actually bringing in all these different best-in-class products and companies together. And last thing to mention about this slide before going to the next one is another great thing about being in the construction technology side is the work-life balance of being able to, for me, even before COVID, being able to have that flexibility to work from home, right? You work from home, you can run all your errands, you have so much flexibility. I got to travel quite a bit all over the place to meet with all the different customers we had. So as you can see in some of the pictures I put over here, sometimes I would set up office one day by the Bellagio fountains in Vegas, or the next day at the beach in Hawaii, or somewhere by the water in Canada. So a lot of good opportunities on the technology side if you're looking for that flexible work-life balance. And but the one thing, the main thing I would say probably that I really enjoy about my job is how I get to travel and learn about different details and legislation or how construction technology is actually used in different regions, whether it's throughout the US or in Europe, and be able to really interact with different customers, right? So a lot of my customers are from the owner side, different general contractors, subcontractors, to see how they all run their businesses and how my team can essentially help them at the end of the day be a little bit more effective using construction technology. All right, and the last slide over here before we dive into some of the actual content for construction challenges and the demonstration. So as I moved up over here, the past couple of years now leading our global team of technical solutions executives, I've really been able to learn to embrace some of the new challenges. As part of my new role, I work very closely with our marketing teams on speaking opportunities where I get to travel and speak at conferences all over the place about construction trends, construction technologies that are emerging. And this really helps me and my team to be able to be thought leaders and create that personal and professional brand out there to gain that competitive advantage for the company. And one thing that I do want to end the presentation with over here is that I've also finally learned, it's taken forever, but I've finally learned how to genuinely celebrate other people's success. I mean, you're going to encounter this. When you first start your career, everything is all about you, especially in a competitive industry, let's say like construction, right? You constantly want to be recognized, celebrated, and chase that next promotion, more money. But when you're finally put in that leadership position, you start to realize that it's not just about you and it's all about the team's success. And the sooner, honestly, you start learning how to celebrate other people's success, the sooner you'll put that positive mindset and energy out there in the universe, and you'll start finding more and more and more success yourself. So if you want to take away one thing from this slide, is start to genuinely celebrate other people's success. It'll go a long way. All right, and I have a slide for the lessons learned recap, but before I go into challenges in construction, Dr. Pion, should I open it up for construction, or do you want me to go through a few more slides and do the demo and hold the questions until the end?
It's all up to you. So,
okay, yeah, we can open it up for this section. See if there's any questions from a career path standpoint or any of the experiences I've had. Any questions from the class?
Yeah, that would be great. So, is there any questions?
Yeah, hi Peter, my name is Victor. Just wanted to say thank you for coming out and being a guest speaker for our class. We really appreciate it. And so my question is, how do you approach getting people to be your mentor? Because, you know, it's crossed my mind a few times and I'm not really sure how to like approach it.
No, that's a really good question, Victor. So just to put it in perspective, I mean, the way that I went about it, and it's worked quite well for me the past few years, whether it was during the student chapters, spending time with the leaders in the industry, or the pictures that I showed you from the Skanska days. Honestly, the people who are at the C-suite or the executive level in construction, they have 25, 35 years of experience and a ton of stories that they constantly want to talk about, right? So one thing that you can actually do to grab their attention, the best thing is to be a great active listener. I mean, these guys would love to teach, and they want to talk about all the projects that they've worked on, all the different teams that they've been a part of. So I would say actively involved in conversations with them, ask them questions, genuinely care about all the different lessons or all the different stories that they're giving you. And that's how you start developing that trust. And Victor, honestly, if you don't even say a single word in that conversation and you're just an active listener talking to them, they're going to walk away from the conversation, go up to their buddy and be like, oh my God, I just talked to Victor and he's the coolest dude in the world. Even though you didn't say anything, just because of the fact that you gave them your ear and genuinely cared and talked to them, they would really appreciate that. So that's one thing that's constantly worked for me, by being an active listener and really developing that trust, and then slowly asking them, hey, can we set up some mentorship sessions maybe once every other month for 30 minutes for me to ask you questions about career paths, or what I can do from a project engineer standpoint to move up to that next step and become a C-suite one day at a general contracting company. So I know I went in circles. That was a really long answer, but be a great listener and engage them in conversation.
Thank you, Peter. Really appreciate that.
Okay, Victor. So let me give you a class announcement. Actually, Peter mentioned about our AGC student club. Because of COVID, it's been inactive since last spring semester. So I want to make our student club more active in spring semester. If you're willing to join as a club leader, we need actually 5 people. I recruited 2 so far. We need 3 more people to make our student club active. Associate General Contractor Student Club at San Jose State University. If any of you taking this class interested in joining our student club, and just send me an email, express your willingness to be a member of our student club, then I will let you get connected with our group leaders. All right.
Can you mention the name of? Can you mention the name of the club again?
AGC Student Club, Associated General Contractor, AGC Student Club at San Jose State University.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I got a question. So Peter, when did you do you said you got your PE, did your PE exam, right?
Oh, no, I never actually did the PE exam and just got into construction. Let me just backtrack. I thought I was going to do structural engineering at some point, and I was like, okay, I need to study for my EIT, go get my PE license. And I would say if you're from a career perspective, definitely if you have the opportunity right now, go get your EIT, get your PE license. It'll be worth it. But for me, I went straight to grad school and just got in the workforce. And to be honest with you, to be quite honest, yeah, I got pretty lazy and never really did it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. To go based on that, Peter, do you think for construction you need your PE or you'll be fine without it?
So two things. I mean, if you want to stay in construction operations, let's say if you're a project engineer, project manager, or even I've had assistant superintendents or superintendents who had their PE license, right? So that'll just give you that added level of credibility. So if you're walking a job, let's say with the owner or with the structural engineer, or you're walking the job with the architect, I mean, they'll just look at you in a different lens. They're like, oh, okay, this guy or this lady, they know what they're talking about. They have their PE license and they went through all the hassle to get it. But I don't want to discourage you not to get it. But for me, I feel like in my particular scenario, because I left construction operations and I came to the technology side, it wasn't relevant really for me at the end of the day. But if you have the opportunity to get it right now, definitely do it. It's worth it.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on, Peter.
Well, let's do it. And Dr. Pion, I mean, feel free to share my email address. And as everybody in the class saw, more than welcome if you want to go ahead and add me on LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to continue the conversation about career paths over there if anybody's interested.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Peter.
For sure. All right, let's just dive into a couple more slides over here to get us set up for the demonstration we're going to do. And now that we're going to talk about some of the basic challenges in the construction industry, I do want to draw everybody's attention in class here to the chart that we have on the screen. And this basically shows the digitization of operations based on a business type. So up at the top of the chart, you can see media, finance, and some of the other office-centered professions, which are basically deeply digitized. And midway down the list, we're seeing mining and other industries that have been basically slower to adopt, but they're making progress in bringing that technology to the job site. And finally, we have construction almost at the bottom of that list, and it's just above agriculture and hunting, which is kind of funny and sad at the same time. So let's take a quick look over here. Let's take a quick look at this whole challenges that we have in construction from a productivity standpoint. And as you can see in this little chart over here, productivity in construction has basically been declining over the last 50 years, while it's actually increased by over 150% in some of the other industries. So as somebody might ask themselves, hey, why has construction and productivity in construction actually been so bad? So to answer that question, I mean, basically, even with all the emphasis on teamwork and collaboration, the image that you see on this slide still more or less shows how projects are being completed in the long run these days. And there's that lack of communication, which is basically often regarded as that most common cause of productivity loss on successful projects. And there's really very minimal amount of collaboration and teamwork, which results in having those adversarial relationships and a lot of finger pointing between all the different parties on projects. And you might ask yourself, what does that finger pointing mean? So contractors are basically pointing to that lack of effective risk allocation across stakeholders and how those contractors actually don't have enough skin in the game when it comes to profit margins and setting up these different projects. And to the right side, you can see that the owners, on the other hand, point to poor project management and execution from the on-site staff. And all of that back and forth from the previous slide basically has made us really get used to and adapt to the realities of today in construction, which are basically high costs, unpredictable schedules and outcomes for everybody involved, and squeeze margins for everybody again, subcontractors, architects, general contractors. So at times it is a lose-lose situation for everybody involved. And basically that results in projects that are experiencing with overruns, 98%, average schedule delays that we're seeing 20 months, and average cost increases above the allocated budget for the project are up to about 80%. So pretty crazy numbers if you put them into perspective. All right, so a couple more slides over here. We ended up surveying actually 600 industry professionals last year to put together a collaborative study with this organization called FMI. And one of the areas that we analyzed was to actually measure the amount of value-added activities versus the amount of non-value added activities that project teams engaged in. So if you take a look at the chart over here, the first three items at the top, project execution and coordination, interacting with external stakeholders, and organizing people on the job site, these in green were actually regarded as optimal activities where project teams ideally would want to focus most of their efforts on. And then now shifting the focus to the bottom three activities, looking, let's say, for project data, conflict resolution, and dealing with mistakes and rework, these were actually regarded as wasteful activities, taking up to 35% of the time spent on projects. And here's a quick breakdown of that 35% of waste that we found. Out of the work week, 5.5 hours is actually spent looking for project data and information. 4.5 hours of it is spent on conflict resolution, and 3.9 hours is spent dealing with rework and correcting mistakes on projects. So really big numbers over there on some of these projects that we're seeing. And what happens if I think we had this as a concept of CE 131 too. One of the important parts of the construction project, one of the most important parts is the closeout and turnover. When the subcontractors, general contractors put together all the closeout packages, bundle everything up, and provide that to the owner at the end of the day for the owner and their facilities teams to basically maintain and operate that structure, whether it's a building or a whatever type of project for the next 50 to 100 years, right? And if the contractors don't have the ability, based on the previous slide that I showed you, to really keep all that information centralized in one environment, a lot of that is going to fall through the cracks. And we're going to have this, what we call the handover tsunami, where a lot of these important information is falling through the cracks, and the owners and the facilities teams are going to receive all this information. They would have to do a lot of manual data entry on their end to be able to maintain and operate their structures at the end of the day. And that's why construction technology really became popular in the past 7 to 9 years, I would say, by being able to digitize everything and bringing it to the field. So giving the different project teams, general contractors, owners, their facilities team, giving them an iPad and having all that information that I talked about in one centralized location. So no more rolls of paper all over the job site, no more binders and binders of operations and maintenance manuals for the facilities teams, where you can have your mobile device, have access to all your digitized drawings, all of your different approved submittals for different pieces of equipment, be able to track all of your progress photos, O&M manuals, warranty information from subcontractors on the project, and let's say any training videos for different pieces of equipment, let's say a generator or automatic transfer switch on the projects, to be able to house it all in one single source of truth. And with that, I do want to go ahead and dive into my iPad really quick to give you guys a quick demonstration of, in this case, out of all the portfolio that we have, I'm going to focus on PlanGrid to just show you how essentially that digitization and data standardization can help construction projects be a little bit more effective and efficient on the job site. All right. Let me go ahead and pull up my iPad over here for us to take a look at. And Dr. Pion, if you can just let me know if my iPad screen is showing now on the Zoom. Can
Yes.
you see my iPad screen?
Yes,
Perfect.
I can see you.
All right, gonna have a sip of water, catch my breath over here so we can go through the demo. Awesome, and we'll do a little bit of a Q&A at the end as well. So again, as I mentioned, construction technology really came about back in 2011, especially from a mobile standpoint with PlanGrid, when the first generation of the iPads came around. And our founder really wanted to be able to digitize all the drawings from a construction project and put them all on a mobile device. So over here, as I'm going through, please feel free to let me know if you have any questions as well. But from a mobile perspective, I have the PlanGrid application over here, where as I load it up on my mobile device, I can go ahead and take a look at all these different type of projects that I have. So you have projects that are on this device, and these might be basically projects that different team members, owners, architects, GCs, or subs are currently working on. And they therefore basically have downloaded all the project and the information locally on their device to be able to complete all of their workflows, whether they're online or offline, and be able to sync the information back to everybody else on the team when they hit internet connectivity. And you also have projects here in the bottom. These are projects that are on the cloud. And these might be projects that different team members have worked on in the past, or they've been invited to by different stakeholders, and they don't need them locally downloaded on the mobile device to be able to access the information offline, right? So in this case, let's go ahead and jump into a specific project to go through some of the different capabilities and how we basically help the customers be a little bit more effective and efficient on the job site. So whenever you load in your project in PlanGrid, the first window that you're going to see is what we call the grid view over here, which is a list of all of your different project drawings that you have. And in order to get to this point, basically our users would have to grab a combined PDF of all of their different drawings, drag and drop them into the system, and our OCR technology is going to go work in the background and do a few things actually automatically for the users. So first, the system is going to, as you can see, automate and separate out all the different drawings from that PDF packet. And then it'll go ahead and automatically assign all the different sheet titles over here, sheet descriptions, sheet numbers, everything will be automated for the users. And the system will also go ahead and place automatically all of these drawings into basic disciplines. So for all of your drawings, you have, let's say, architectural drawings, mechanical, electrical. So I can go to the filter here at the top, and I can go ahead and take a look at all of my architectural, audio-visual drawings, and I can start slicing and dicing the information as a project engineer, let's say, based on what I want to see on the project. So with a couple clicks, I can hit architectural, I can hit floor plans, and I can really go ahead and drill down the drawing set from 1,000 drawings only to those 5 drawings that I really care about from a project engineer perspective, going to that job site on a specific date. And few other things that the system also does automatically for different teams, which is pretty important, is that it makes the text within the drawings also searchable. So if you go to the navigation bar here at the top, you can go ahead and search for a specific word. And this is something that was super painful for me as a PE 6 years ago or so, going through the drawings and searching for specific type of information. In this case, the platform goes ahead, finds the word floor in the sheet title or description of all these 6 sheets at the top. And you can see that the word floor was also found in 28 sheets within the context of the sheet itself. So for example, PA 2.01 over here, you can see that we have 4 matches for the word. I can click on it, and everywhere where the word floor has been mentioned will be highlighted over here in a yellow color for me to be able to take a look at. And another thing that I really struggle with as a project engineer in the field before we used PlanGrid or similar technology was being able to look at all these different detail callouts. Going through thousands and thousands of pages and sheets of drawing on the job site in the trailer wasn't a really efficient way of going about it. So what the system does for you is that it automatically hyperlinks all of your detail callouts. So let's say you're a project engineer, start your first job right out of school. If you want to go ahead and reference, let's say detail 20 on PA 8.21, you can go ahead, click on it, jump to that specific sheet, and zoom into detail 20 to take a look at it over here. And this pretty much saves people, depending on the size of the project, 2 to 3 minutes sometimes to be able to reference, go back and forth between all these different details on the drawing. And in this particular case, let's say if I want to go ahead and go back to the floor plan that I started with, here in the top right-hand section, I have a nice Google search of all the different drawings that I started from. And at the top, we have that PA 2.01, the floor plan that we started with. And the last automated thing that the system does automatically is the versioning, the whole version control process. Let's say you're on a construction project, there's going to be multiple iterations of design or construction drawings where the design team issues a new bulletin, new set of changes to the issued for construction, let's say, set of drawings. So you can drag and drop those into place. The system will automatically slip sheet the new drawings on top of the old ones. So you can see that we have a V2 designation in the bottom left-hand corner of the sheet. That means that we have 2 different versions of this particular document. So if I go click on PA 2.01, the system will always take you to the most current set of the drawing, so we can make sure that all the different team members in the field, if you're a project engineer later on, you're always looking at the most up-to-date set of that particular sheet. And if I want to go ahead and access the older version of this drawing, all I have to do on my mobile device is to swipe up. I'll get a banner at the top showing me that I'm looking at an older version of a drawing. And here in the top right-hand section, I can go ahead and compare this with the most current set of the document. So as I click that, we get the nice legend in the top left-hand corner showing me that everything in red is from Bulletin 1, which is the new version of the drawings that we have. Everything in blue is from the issued for construction set, which is the older version of the drawings. And everything in black essentially stayed the same during these different iterations of construction documents. For example, if we zoom in over here, we can see everything in red, which is new. We had this door and wall system that got added. If I go in the women's restroom area, you can see that some of these sink locations also changed throughout the different construction drawings. And if I want to go ahead and communicate this to different parties, you can go ahead and click the square with the up arrow, take a quick snapshot, and email it out to different parties and say, hey, we're going to need pricing now for all these sink locations that have already been roughed in, and now they moved with the new iterations of the construction drawing. So again, eliminating a lot of Word documents, Excel files, emails, and conversations going back and forth in one centralized location over here. All right, so a few other things to show over here really quick. You have the ability to use the annotations toolbar here in the right-hand section where project engineers, project managers, superintendents can go ahead and grab different icons, annotate the drawings, use the Sharpie tool. Let's grab this toilet partition over here in the women's restroom. You can use your text boxes to do talk-to-text functionality, or go ahead and also type something, let's say field verify in this particular case. And the important thing that customers are really starting to like when it comes to construction technology is that all of these annotations and markups that I'm actually creating are personal to me. So if I'm a project engineer, I can treat this as my personal notebook for a given day on the job. But if I want to go ahead and share all of this information with my team members, I can go ahead, grab all these annotations, publish this to the project. You can see that the crown icon appears, the red color gets a shade darker, meaning that everybody on my project team, owner, contractors, everybody can now see all this information that I've published. Few other things to also note is that you can go ahead and use what we call our chain link icon over here, which is for hyperlinking. For example, I can grab it, select a specific shape, and go to this toilet partition area and reference a, let's say, product data for this specific toilet partition on the project. So I can click the documents, I can go to the toilet partition document that we have within our PlanGrid project, and I can publish this. So everybody from a superintendent perspective, project engineer perspective, can go ahead and pull up this toilet partition cut sheet, whatever they're out on the job site, online or offline, and be able to make sure that all the products that the specialty subcontractor is bringing to the job site is in accordance to the specifications that the architect has specified on the project. So again, we have all the information connected in one centralized location to make sure that the right things are being delivered and the right things are being installed. All right, a couple other things to point out over here is you have a measuring tool. Instead of having to do anything manually throughout the process, you can calibrate your drawings, you can start running irregular shapes, you can start doing linear measurements or area measurements over here to be able to take a quick perspective on, let's say, how much red or caution tape you're going to need, like what your laydown area is going to look like from a logistics standpoint on the project. And the most important functionality that I also really enjoy is the progress photo functionality, which is super important for project engineers. As you start your career, more often than not, every Friday you would have to go to a specific location on the job site and start taking pictures to document the progress of the work for the owner. And this is really critical to make sure that as a subcontractor or general contractor, you're getting paid at the end of the month accordingly, right? So in this case, I can, as a project engineer, take a new video or take a new photo over here from a specific corner on the job site. I can annotate that photo. And if I go to the details section, the important piece again is that everything is date, time, user stamp. So you have that nice audit trail of who's taking the picture, when it's being taken, and the exact time and location for it with the GPS location of the latitude, longitude for the photo. So if worst comes worst, if this goes to, if there's like, let's say, legal issues on the project from a liability perspective, contractors can cover themselves and make sure that they have all the backup documentation of when this work happened, essentially. And with the GPS location, now everybody knows exactly where I live. All right. And next week rolls around. As a project engineer, you go out there and you can take a new photo and start creating your progress photos for this specific lobby area. So you can see how this entire space and location progressed throughout the past like 2 years that we started building this project. All right, so now going to the document section in PlanGrid here in the bottom section. This is where a lot of the folks in the construction industry are leveraging their internal C drive or Box or Dropbox or SharePoint, Google Drive, all these other platforms to just use them as a repository. So with construction technology, and it's not just PlanGrid, a lot of the other ones out there, what our entire mission is to connect that data repository to the sheets the way that I showed you, to be able to hyperlink them and use that relevant information in the field. So in this particular case, under my document section, I can go take a look at, let's say, 360-degree photos prior to room closures on their project to make sure that we're roughing everything in accordingly and getting all the work completed. You can have all of your approved submittals or all of your approved RFIs as part of the process. So if I click on wiring devices submittal, I can easily go through the documentation, and very similar functionality to the sheets that I showed you. This is very valuable for project engineers as you get into the field to be able to search for information, and wherever the word, let's say commercial, has been mentioned, will pop up over here in a yellow color for me. All right, few other functionalities. I would say this is probably the most heavily used functionality that we have within PlanGrid is our project lifecycle task management tool. And it's basically represented by the 4 lines and a check mark over here. So I can click on it as a general contractor, architect, owner, and I can access a fully customizable set of stamps where if I want to go ahead and use these to create an actionable workflow for doing design reviews, constructability reviews, or value engineering exercises, or to run a simple punch list process on my project, I can go ahead and do that. So in this particular case, let's say as a general contractor, I find some deficiency item from the electrical subcontractor, I can go ahead and grab this electrical stamp, place it exactly where the issue is located. I can go ahead and give it a specific status. I can go ahead and assign it to the electrical subcontractor, let's say Brian, who messed this up. I can go ahead and include a watcher, let's say Brian's boss, Austin, over here, so they get a notification too. I can start creating that actionable workflow. So instead of having an Excel log that I have to track, or instead of having to be a superintendent and manually track these on the drawings themselves, I can go ahead and set all these start dates, due dates of when this activity needs to be completed. You can go ahead and include the description of what electrical issue needs to be fixed. You can have a live conversation, chat correspondence going back and forth between different team members to make sure that this issue is coming to resolution. And at the end of the day, you can include your photos or videos the way that I showed you, cost impact or schedule impact for the owner or any other stakeholders on the project. And what will happen is that Brian, the electrical contractor, will receive an email that he has a task assigned to him and he needs to take care of it based on a specific timeline. And the important part that will be automated over here is the generation of all these reports. And as a project engineer, this was always a huge pain point for me, having to keep track of all these items in the Excel log. But you can basically go ahead and generate a report which automates all of your tasks that you have throughout the project. So these are all hyperlinked where I can jump from punch list item to punch list item. I have a 2D snapshot of the drawing where the exact location of the task that has been placed on it, and all the metadata going back and forth, comments, descriptions, and also any photos that we took as part of the process, everything again, date, time, user stamp, so we don't have any liability issues moving forward. All right, and last part that I do want to show over here is automating and digitizing the field report process on projects. So this is pretty important because as you start doing more and more projects, let's say you're a subcontractor or a general contractor, you're going to have a lot of different checklists or forms that you have to start creating, especially in the whole COVID world these days, to make sure that people are doing social distancing and all the different measures that we need to take for COVID purposes as well. Any safety related forms, commissioning forms, QA, QC forms, they can all go into construction technology tools like PlanGrid over here and be digitized. So instead of having a project engineer or a field superintendent filling them out on a piece of paper that's going to get lost at the end of the day, you can just hand them an iPad and have them fill out this slab on grade checklist form where I can go in, fill out any specific sections, have checkboxes, drop downs, and at the end of the day, have all the different parties do their digital signature. I'm going to have access to my weather information throughout the course of the project. I can add any photos or videos. I can bring in any documents, let's say a hollow metal door submittals. I can bring in any snapshots, let's say that overlay that we did between different iterations of design. And I can, at the end of the day, also add any tasks that we created, maybe that electrical task that I just generated. So all of this information can be housed as part of the field reports that we're creating, whether our users are owners, contractors, or subcontractors. And you can go ahead and submit this where the information is going to go to the higher ups and the leadership on the project for them to be able to review and accept the report at the end of the day. So I know I went through all this information super quickly, but these are some of the really basic value adds where you can do all of your RFI, submittals, change management, basically the entire project lifecycle, all the way from planning to where we turn over the project to the owners and how they operate it for the next 50 years. That process is becoming more and more digitized in the past 7, 8, 10 years using construction technology. And Dr. Pion, with that, I know that was a really quick demo, but I wanted to just get all the capabilities in because different folks in the class, if you go into construction, you're going to start leveraging all these different construction technology tools out there.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. So PlanGrid start with just the construction drawing app. Now it's a construction management app, right? It's a field management app.
Yeah, so it's field management, punch list, RFI management, submittal management, and basically that project lifecycle task management for design reviews and constructability reviews and so on. Yep.
Can you tell us about the Autodesk BIM 360?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the whole BIM 360 platform that we have, basically we have different modules in it where a lot of our users are using it for design collaboration, where you can go ahead and natively publish, let's say, Revit models into BIM 360 design collaboration and have different stakeholders contribute and publish all their different MEP or structural packages. And then we have a lot of different modules from project management when it comes to cost control, right? Budget versus cost, being able to run all your subcontracts, change orders, and be able to run predictive insights and analytics on what is the trend for all these change orders that are being created on the project. How often are all of these different issues being resolved on the project? So it's more, so the way that I would describe it, Dr. Pion, is PlanGrid is that field solution, easy to use mobile platform that we have, and BIM 360 is more of that back-end office side where you're doing your contracts, cost management, and all the workflows pertaining to that.
So typically the contractors can use both PlanGrid and BIM 360, right, together?
Yeah, actually both, we do have integrations where both platforms are actually connected now. So if I change a drawing right now in PlanGrid, it'll automatically go back into the BIM 360 portal that we have. So there's a bi-directional link between the two.
Great. Okay, any questions?
Hey, Peter. Thank you for everything. Like you have offered very logical and detailed information for everything. It's very organized. Thank you. My question is, does PlanGrid offer sophisticated lessons for a group or a company, the group members to learn it all together?
So for the different companies to be able to, let's say, use it on their project?
Yes, yes. For example, a company who never used the iPad to manage their documents.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the thing with software companies these days, right? Basically, even when I was in construction and we started using PlanGrid, we had a whole adoption and a whole training and implementation team that came over, basically helped all the different team members start learning how to use it. Basically, to your point, a lot of the companies out there, especially the smaller ones in the trades, they might not be as tech savvy as some of the larger companies out there, but that's the reason why we've made the technology so easy to use, where one of the superintendents on my projects, to be honest with you, he wasn't able to really send emails through Outlook. So he wasn't tech savvy by any means. But when the PlanGrid implementation and training team came to the job site and showed him how to use all these different tools and markup capabilities, he picked it up super fast, but he couldn't send the email at the end of the day. So there's definitely opportunities for training.
Thank you.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. This time is almost over. It's almost 7:15. Thank you, Peter. So your personal experience and also your professional experience really help our students to understand career paths in construction and construction technology. We really appreciate your guest speaker lecture today. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely, Dr. Pion. No, really appreciate it. And I gotta take a little picture of this too. So we gotta do this again, live and in person, hopefully. And Dr. Pion, again, if you can share the email address to everybody in class, and please feel free, add me on LinkedIn, and we can continue the conversation. If there's any way I can help the folks with career paths, more than happy to do it.
As a class announcement, and I will share your LinkedIn URL address, and students can create their own account and just to get connected with you and me.
Absolutely, more than happy.
Okay, once again, thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Take care.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.